Hi guys, here we are again, and today we're going to make some onion marmalade. Now it's one of my favourites, this is, and you caught me here just at the end of chopping up the onions. Now for this onion marmalade, when you cut the onions, you want to cut them into slices. Now the reason for this is just simply that they look a lot nicer when they're cooked down for the presentation of the actual marmalade itself. If they're in chunks, it doesn't kind of look as good. Now these are very strong onions. I'm not normally susceptible to crying with onions, and this recipe calls for 3 large onions, but when I went to the supermarket they only had things about the size of, well, just a bit bigger than pickled onions really, but so I've used 6. 2 per large onion, and this is the last one that I'm cutting up now. Just cut the onion in half and then into rings. Whoops, there's a bit of skin left on that one there. Quality control not quite right. So what we do is we get 3 large, or as I've done 6 small onions, cut them into rings. That goes into the saucepan. Okay, and then we have 3 cloves of garlic. Quite a simple recipe this is really. 3 cloves of garlic that we crush in using the good old trusty garlic crusher. If you're not as much of a garlic fiend as I am, you can use less, obviously. It's not cast in stone, this. There goes the second one. And the last one. Okay, so that's 3 large onions, 3 cloves of garlic. As usual, I'll flick out the last of it. There we go. And then the last thing to put in at this stage is the spices. Now I'm just going to use some mustard seed for the heat, and I'm going to use some coriander seeds. Now you can put them in whole, but what I like to do is I like to put them in my mortar and pestle, and I'm doing this by eye, but for those of you that worry about quantities, obviously the quantities will be on the recipe. So I just put my mustard seeds and my coriander seeds, a few more mustard seeds I reckon. It's probably about 2 teaspoons full, but as I say, it'll all be written on the recipe. And my coriander seeds in there. And the idea is not to try and get into a powder, but just to break them slightly, so as they're just broken open. So they just want a little bit of a push down with the pestle into the mortar, just to give them a quick run around, just to break a few of them open, just so as they'll impart that little bit of extra flavour into the proceedings. So that's that. They're all crushed. Just break a few of them open, okay? And they then smells delicious. They want to go in there. Okay, so that's the onions and the garlic with the mustard and the coriander. I'll put a sprinkle of salt in there in a bit, and just a few shakes of olive oil on the bottom of the saucepan. And that wants to now be fried very slowly on a very gentle heat, so as the onions start to go clear. And then when that's all boiled down, fried down, and has gone clear, then it's time to add the other ingredients. So I'll get on and do that, and I'll come back to you and show you the kind of consistency that we want the onions to be, and then we'll add the other ingredients. Okay, so I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so here I am back. I've sautéed down these onions with their mustard seeds and their coriander and the garlic, and they are at a consistency that is just kind of soft. Perhaps I can show this to you. I don't know whether you can see it, but they're just starting to go a bit soft, and starting to take on a bit of a see-through appearance. So now this is the time that we need to add the other ingredients. Okay, so what we need to add to this now is 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Get a good one. You know, as I always say, if you get the poor quality vinegars, either cider, red wine or white wine vinegars, they're too acid. You don't get any of the nice flavour imparted to the thing. All you get is a very burny, acidy sort of end product. So good quality red wine vinegar, and we want 3 tablespoons of that. It's 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to add a little bit for luck because it looks like I've got quite a lot more onion in there than perhaps I expected. So just by eye, I'm going to probably add another half of one there for myself. So that's the red wine vinegar added, and then a couple of ounces of really nice dark brown soft sugar. In this instance, you know, I always bang on about the fact that I use white sugar so as you keep all the lovely colours. You know, when you're cooking things like, you know, green tomato chutneys and that kind of thing, oh, I want to keep all the delicate colours and so on. But in this case I don't. I want my onion marmalade to look that lovely unctuous brown colour. So some nice dark brown sugar. All the quantities will obviously be on the recipe on the website. So there's the dark brown sugar. That needs a good stir together. Okay, and that's now going to go back on the heat, and that is going to carry on boiling away now until we've got a nice thick unctuous finished product that should be a lovely sort of rich brown colour. And if you find that all the liquid is boiling away before that's happened, then just add a few spoonfuls, only add tablespoons, don't go pouring loads in, but add a few tablespoons of water to it, and then, you know, bring it back to the boil and simmer it away until you get that lovely rich thick consistency. But I'll show you the kind of consistency you want to end up with when I come back in a moment. Okay? Fine. Okay guys, so here we are back again, and I have boiled this onion marmalade right down. These onions seem to be very persistent at refusing to render down. And a little tip: if your onions are remaining crunchy and not going nice and soft and days, just stick a saucepan lid on your saucepan for a little while and let it steam. You know, give it 10 minutes with a lid on, and you'll find that suddenly kind of breaks that hardness, and then they will start to go and they'll start to mush down. Obviously take the lid off, because the whole idea then is to let the liquid evaporate away, so you end up with a nice rich thick gooey marmalade. And that's what we've got here. If I can perhaps show that up to the camera. I'm afraid it's got dark outside, it's winter, and I'm not sure you're going to see that because we're now using artificial light in here. But you might have done. There will be some ordinary photographs on the blog anyway. If you go to mypicklesandjams.com, you will see the URL down there. If you go there, you will see ordinary stills photographs, so as you can get some idea of what it's supposed to look like. And I'll give you some idea of what it tastes like. It's still hot, but still red hot actually. But see if I can get a good taste without burning myself. Yeah, that's lovely. That's got a really rich oniony flavour, a real bite at the back of the throat from the mustard seeds, and that red wine vinegar. And all in all, that's a very pleasant combination. Just the sort of thing to serve with a cheese board. Certainly, you know, it's the festive season. Serve it at Christmas with your Christmas supper. Yet another pickle that you can serve with the Christmas supper. Another tip is to use this as an addition to stews, you know, or casseroles. when you're frying your onions to start with, before you put your meat and all the other stuff, and you just brown your onions off, put a couple of scoops of this in with them and let it all brown up together. You'll be surprised what a difference that makes to a soup or a stew. The other thing about this, you need to remember it's not a real pickle as such. There's not a very large amount of vinegar in here. So be careful about how long it keeps. You should keep in a jar in the cupboard in a dark place for a couple of months. And of course, if you keep it in the fridge, it'll last a whole lot longer than that. But just be aware that it's not a full-blown pickle. Okay, so that's my onion marmalade. Absolutely delicious. Until next time, guys. See ya.